Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of RT Talk, a very concise and trimmed episode of RT Talk. Basically, just as a real quick get it out of the way sort of thing, didn't have a lot that came across my kind of plate this week in terms of Rooster Teeth news, and then also today was sort of a, more challenging day personally for some stuff going on in my life, so I want to try to get this knocked out somewhat quickly, but still put out an episode. So at least you have some of your RT news that you're looking forward to. So really quick, get this kind of get you this few topics that I have collected. So the one that I feel like is the most talk worthy is the kind of just discussing Ready Set Show and whether or not it's coming back. Obviously it is in some capacity, but we'll get into that. Talking about the new kind of perk with a first membership when it comes to podcasts. And then when I talk about staying in the realm of podcast, talking about a new podcast that was just announced in the Rooster Teeth network. So let's actually get into just the Ready Set Show news, and I guess just we'll talk about that a little bit. So Ready Set Show, of course, has been was a show that they did that was very in the spirit of Good Mythical Morning with Trevor and Jeremy. I should say, I guess that's a confusing sentence. Trevor and Jeremy were the Rooster Teeth version of Good Mythical Morning, which is obviously Rhett and Link. But with the pandemic and different stuff, Ready Set Show has not been able to continue in the capacity it used to, and then now that they're doing things back in studio and in person and everything, obviously the possibility is out there that they could do it again. With Jeremy staying in the Northeast, it obviously makes it more difficult for them to try to do anything with Ready Set Show. And I could be wrong, but I felt like they announced something about, or made some sort of statement about Ready Set Show and whether or not it would be back. But Jeremy tweeted just this past week, it just says Ready, Set, and then a GIF of Gavin looking at the camera from one of his episodes of Ready, Set, Show. And Jeremy was in office this past week. There was several photos and videos and stuff popping up of himself, and Kai was there as well. So there was a lot of in-person activity going on this past week. One of which was the Between the Games with the fridge prank, which was very simple, but just gotta be honest, was very nice to see them all back together and just joking around and having a fun time. But obviously this tweet makes it seem like that they're at least doing one episode of Ready Set Show. I'm not sure what this will mean going forward and how they would pull this off with Jeremy being remote. So I'm not sure what this really means for Ready Set Show. There's obviously different possibilities that could play out here. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of a wait and see sort of situation, but I think we can at least conclude at least one more Ready Set Show will be coming out. And then from there, then we're just going to have to see what happens, and I don't know, I guess hope it comes back, which is where I'm sort of at right now, because Ready Set Show was, when it started, I wasn't that into it, but then as it went on, it became one of those things that we were watching every week when it came out. So I'm hoping it comes back in some capacity. I'm just not sure logistically how they'll pull that off, since Jeremy's completely remote in the Northeast. Although, I mean, Jeremy has said in the past, I think, I want to say, yeah, I pulled up the tweet a little bit ago, but he did say, this was from July 11th, so this is a little bit older, but he said, let's be honest here, I moved back to the Northeast last year. I love my family so much. I just spent this night hanging out with the people of AH, both main room and support room, drinking, chatting, and laughing. I've never felt more home. I love them all so much. So it does seem that Jeremy is going to have, it's not going to be an easy move for him to stay up there. So I know there's some people who speculated that maybe he was coming back and he was moving back to Austin. I'm not sure that that's the case. Obviously, that's always looming out there. He did say, once things get back in office, we'll see what happens. Whenever he made his initial kind of statement about leaving or, going to contractor or what have you. So personally, I don't think it's likely that anytime soon he'd be moving back if that was the case. But I mean, I guess it's not outside of the realm of believability that could happen. That he would move back. I don't think he's moving back for Ready Set Show, but this Ready Set Show led me down to this thought here. But yeah, so it's he obviously he's not completely done with AH. He's working contract. He obviously misses everybody. He loves everyone that's there. So and I like I said, I thought I remember them making an announcement about a Ready Set Show ending, and maybe I'm just confusing it with the one about Chump and how like they actually put out him saying, I don't remember the exact wording of it, but it was something like, with me being up in like or I think he just said like Northeast, like with me being away, that it's not possible to shoot Chump, or at least like shoot Chump the way it normally would be shot, and so that they would be ending. And you would assume that Ready Set Show would be in the same, or would fall into the same problem that Chump would, but who really knows? And only time will tell, which is, I almost feel like it's becoming like a slogan of mine. I feel like I say it way too much, but really, that I feel like that's all we're left with, is to wait and see what happens. But personally, if I had to make a prediction, I think Ready Set Show might become maybe a more sparse show. Maybe they have it planned out when Jeremy will kind of fly in and shoot some, and then they can obviously shoot them in, a package of maybe, probably 5-10 of them if they have enough ideas plotted out, because they could do all the planning and everything could happen remotely, and then they could just get together and then shoot all of them over the course of maybe a few days. They had to, so it's obviously a show that they could do. It kind of depends on how they want to do it, I guess. So personally, that's what I think is maybe is what will happen, is that with like I said, I feel like there was an announcement, but I also couldn't find one whenever I was looking stuff up for this. So, if that is the case and they never did say anything about Ready Set Show ending, and Jeremy was just in the office for however many days, and now he's tweeting about it, I think maybe they filmed some in bulk, and then that should carry over until they do like their seasons, because that's kind of the way they handle things now. So, but either way, I'm looking forward to more Ready Set Show, especially the Gavin ones, because the made up Gavin slang ones are probably the best ones, but they've had a lot of really funny ones. So. We will see. We will see, which is my other slogan, and the one I say probably too often. But yeah, moving on, we'll talk about the first kind of bonus, because the first news there was a little bit of that happened in the last episode, talking about how they're moving everything to 24 hours, or 24-hour release window for content, as opposed to some things being a week, some things being 3 days, some things being a day. So this is just sort of another kind of, I don't know, another announcement in terms of first like perks, and it's a completely new one. So now it's first members will have early access to podcasts. I think it's a day early, as is the shows, or I should say the series that they put up a day early. So I have not gone through the whole process for it. There's a main tweet here that's. They have like a link that you can click on, and then when you go to it, ask for your email address, and then they send you an email that you log into, and then there's an RSS feed that you are given access to. So it's probably just everything that they put out is on one RSS feed, I assume, but like I said, I've not gone through the entire process yet. But yeah, the tweet just says click here and then the link, enter your first email address, get access, subscribe, party hard is their list, their bullet points there. And then it says, did we forget to mention ad-free? And then we did. These Early Access podcasts are also ad-free. But only new episodes are not going back and removing ads from old episodes. So if you are someone who's bothered by ads and you listen to all the episodes, then you are in luck, because, or I should say, if they bother you and you're a first member, then you're in luck, because now you can listen to them ad-free. Which personally, I've never really been that bothered by the ads. I have other podcasts I listen to where the ads are way more intrusive and more annoying to get past, and there's way more of them. But yeah, so they're actually expanding it. I want to say, I don't know where, again, maybe I just confused. I thought it was 24 hours early, but maybe it is a different window. Um, I could be confusing it with the last announcement of the videos being released a day early, but I'm just not sure. Maybe I could have seen that somewhere, but I'm not seeing it right now. It just says early access. So if I would have gone through the entire process of actually signing up and following this RSS feed, then I would have more information. But I got halfway through it, and then I forgot, and then I started looking at Pokemon cards, and my week has been distracted ever since because I've been watching Alfredo's streams and Jeremy's streams, and they are both very into Pokemon cards. And yeah, I haven't really gotten any yet, but I've been kind of rehooked in. But the last thing we're gonna kind of go through, like I said, very very short episode here. Last thing we're gonna go through is that the Roost, which is Rooster Teeth's podcast network that they've been kind of building up. They added a new podcast, and normally, like they've announced other podcasts, and I don't, it's not like I work for Rooster Teeth where I want to put out every new thing. This isn't like Awu where I just want to announce every new show that comes out and everything. This one I took note of for a specific reason, and I could be wrong on this, but I think this is the first podcast that is under the Roost network that is not a or is not made by people who are at Rooster Teeth. So it's not like Michael being on Face Jam, or Gavin and Jeff being on Fuckface, or all the other ones that they have that are out now that they've been expanding, like Red Web and everything that has. They all contain someone that is in on the cast of Rooster Teeth or Achievement Hunter or what have you. So this is, and I actually know who the person is, but I did not recognize them immediately. This is a podcast called Gen to Gen, and it's essentially I have not listened to the episode, but what I can kind of put together from the way I've seen it described through the promotional tweets they put out is basically it's two people who are several generations apart, I think, or actually, wait, no, a generation. I was thinking decades, several decades apart, not generations, and they either I don't know if they're going to go over news or current event type stuff or what, but I think it's the main kind of focus of the show is sort of having these two wildly different perspectives from people that are from two different generations, and it's featuring Matthew Espinoza, who I did not recognize whenever I didn't recognize the name at all, but I didn't recognize his picture until I was actually looking to see more about this, and I saw the one for the actual thumbnail that they use for the podcast. I was like, he looks kind of familiar, and then I started looking it up, and I realized that he is if the people out there who were into Vine back in the day before it tragically was killed, you would probably recognize him because he was one of the big Vine stars that had was in so many different other people's, and yeah, he was always he had a ton of content himself, and he was in a bunch of other people's content, and I was like, oh, he was he was a lot younger obviously then, but I think he was a young kid, or at least he looked really young. And so then when I saw those, I was like, oh, it's him, okay. And then the other person on it is Eric Griffin, who I'm not super familiar with, but I know who he is. He's a stand-up comedian, and he's not a stand-up comedian in that he does open mics, or he's in his local town. He's an actual legit stand-up comedian. He was on that Workaholics show that was on I think it was a Comedy Central show back in the day that my friends were all loved a lot. But he's popped up on, because I'm a big fan of podcasts for stand-up comedians podcasts, and he's been on, man, I think on maybe every single one I've listened to. So he's a well-known stand-up comedian, and those two are now collaborating, if I'm using that term correctly, which I don't think I am, because they're actually, this is a separate project. They're not kind of featuring in each other's videos and trying to kind of help each other out. They're just together. So yeah, those two are together, and they're making the podcast. And like I said, I could be wrong, but I think this is the first podcast that is not featuring someone from Rooster Teeth in the cast of the podcast. I shouldn't say cast for podcast. That's using cast twice sounds weird, but and I'm sure if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me on that one. But it was the first one that I have seen that it actually was like, oh, now they're expanding beyond their own, roster, and kind of had the feeling that's sort of what they wanted to go for when they started doing the Roost, because it was a podcast network. And, if you were just going to stick to your own people, then you could just be a Rooster Teeth production, and then that be, you don't have to make the Roost, which is more generic sounding, because if everyone is already under your umbrella, you don't need it to be, like, I guess, reintroduced under a new name for any reason, unless you had people who were outside of it. And so this seems to be the first step, or at least one of the first steps in expanding that network and getting way more people and more podcasts. And we'll see. I mean, podcast networks are becoming a pretty big, or maybe not big, but they've been big for a while, but a very common thing. I mean, there's so many of them out there now. So, yeah, maybe they'll keep expanding. Maybe, I think they'll obviously keep expanding, but, maybe there'll be more kind of these announcements coming soon with the first stuff happening. Like, I feel like things are kind of starting to ramp up a little bit when it comes to announcements and stuff like that, with the first announcements and then this new show. So being back in office, I think, has definitely helped them, and I've enjoyed content a lot more with them being in office, which is kind of always what I felt like was going to happen. But yeah, I need to kind of cut this one a little bit short. So that is all I had for this week. Like I said, I went through and I there was a few things I jotted down, but a lot of stuff I think maybe slipped by me possibly. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for everyone who's been subscribing and everything. And then there is no Out in the Grapes is on a little hiatus for the time being until we get past the wedding, and especially now after things that happened today, we'll see how kind of we'll kind of see how everything shakes out. But yeah, Out in the Grapes is paused until at least probably mid to late October, at the latest like November. But we will be back in 2 weeks with this show, and hopefully it'll be a little bit longer one. So thank you everybody.